this point, we'll introduce Minnie and we'll just crack on with some of the content. So there we go. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How's so you're at Manchester University, aren't you?
Yeah, just started back after we all got booted out after COVID and stuff. So yeah, just getting back into it at the moment.
Cool. So are you kind of doing all your learning online at the moment?
It's about half and half. So we're in quite small groups and all social distance in the hospital, and then a lot of it on Zoom now as well. So yeah, it's a good mix.
Okay, cool. And so we're looking at the personal statement today. Is this something that, back when you were applying to medical school, was this kind of a stressful, worrying time, or did you find it really easy and it was?
Oh, definitely not easy. No, I redrafted mine more times than I could count. It was ridiculous. I remember taking it to my teacher after I'd first written it and just having cross through all my paragraphs and you change this. It's a tough thing to do, but once you've got it right, then it's great. And once you've got a good one, then you're in a good stead there for getting an interview and stuff like that. So yes, something you really need to get right when you're applying.
Yeah, definitely. We do quite a lot of kind of personal statement reviews, and we read hundreds and hundreds of personal statements every year. And so what we try to do in this webinar is take kind of some of the main bits of advice that we see and just put it into a webinar to help students to kind of skip over some of the common mistakes and kind of also boost some of the really good points that people do talk about, so it can kind of come across really well in personal statements. Wanted the advice to be kind of super applicable as well. So I think there's bits in here that you talked about where it's like literally examples of, this is how to structure this. And so, hopefully the students find this pretty useful. So I guess at this point, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'll let you get stuck into it.
Cool. See if I can get this PowerPoint moving. There we go. So personal statement is really important. It's one of the major parts of your application to medical school. So you really want to get it right if you really want that interview. So even if you've done really well on your UCAT, you've smashed your GCSEs, you've got great predicted grades, don't rest on your laurels. It's still really important to have a well-rounded application just to give yourself your best chances possible of getting that interview. And also, this is the university's first impression of you. You're just, numbers on a screen at the moment, you're an application, you've got a UCAT score, you've got your grades. This is the way to show them who you are as a person, what qualities you can bring, and why they should pick you as, the medical student. Because there's a lot of other people applying who may have the same scores as you do. So, yeah.
Sorry, just a sec. There's kind of a lot of static on your microphone. I don't know if it's just me.
Is there?
Yeah, I don't know if you've got some headphones or anything that you could try that's slightly different.
Let me try this again. Sorry. Let me see. Is that any better?
Yeah, I think it's okay at the moment.
Okay, I'll carry on for a bit and then does that sound okay?
Yeah, so it sounds okay. If any of the students, if you just want to put something in there, that a lot of people are saying better. Cool.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, so as I was saying, very important. This is your opportunity to show the universities that why they should pick you, why you're different, and other qualities you can bring, and that I'm adding things as well to the university. I mean, they want people that are gonna, bring that university up as well. They want to see you committed as well, and that's a really important thing to get across. And it's also something that could be used in your interview. So really knowing it like the back of your hand is so important, because you don't want to get in a situation where they ask you about, oh, you've mentioned this book you read, and you don't remember it because you've written your personal statement 6 months ago. So it's important you know it really well and you're ready to talk about it and highlight those bits that really show why you're a good candidate. So I picked out sort of 6 qualities that I think that medical students are really, that medical schools are really looking for in applicants. So we've got empathy, commitment, communication skills, teamwork, resilience, and motivation. So when you're writing your personal statement, you can almost use this as maybe like a tick list and say, have I shown that I've got these qualities? Have I shown that I have the skills that make up someone that should be a good doctor? Because it's not all about grades. You've got to be an all-rounded person, well-rounded person that you know, can work with patients, can work within a team. It's not just about getting those degrees to get in. So the first one, empathy. So I've written basically what is quite a poor example, something you probably don't want in your personal statement, and then what would be something better that you could write. Just kind of helps you visualize and see sort of maybe the way you should write it or the things you should include. So hopefully this gives you some inspiration. So saying I spent a week shadowing consultant, like that's all well and good, but like what did you learn from it? What skills and how did you develop from it? And there's no reflection there. You've not shown that, you know, why it's made you any better than another candidate, or why you're a good student. But however, we see in this example that I've written here, we've got some wider reading that you can easily link in there. You don't want to spend ages on, you know, listing all the books you've read, but linking all of it together just to make sure that you can fit everything in possible in those small amount of words that you've got. That's really important. And then linking it in there with you spent a week shadowing consultant, and then being able to say, oh, I got involved, I got stuck in. It doesn't always have to be, you know, speaking to patients. It can just be, I helped this person out do this job. Just showing that you're not just sat there when you're shadowing, you're actually getting stuck in, getting involved, being really proactive. They really like that. And also here you've shown that you're really thinking about how the patients feel as well. Like medicine's so much about empathy and, you know, knowing how patients feel, and then, you know, using that to give them the best treatment possible. So showing that you understand the horrible situation that, you know, they could be in sometimes, and how you can make that better, and reflecting on, you know, maybe the things you've learned and what you can bring then to medical school from, you know, the things you learned from your work experience. So teamwork and leadership, that's something else that's really important as well. Doctors don't work on their own. They've got, you know, loads of juniors, doctors around them, more senior doctors, nurses, midwives, you know, admin staff. You know, you've got to be able to work with other people, and you've got to be able to demonstrate that to the medical schools when you're applying, because, you know, they want you to be able to work in a group, like when you do at university, you're in tutorials with people. You've got to work basically with your learning in a group. So as you see, like we've got an example here of, you know, being captain of a football team. Like obviously it's a great example, but, you know, how does it link into medicine? How does it show that you're a good student? Well, you can say that you've developed communication and management skills from this, and you can recognize the importance of a team and the importance of leadership, and then linking that into medicine as well. You can see from this, like, consultants play an important role. It shows that you've like been paying attention on your work experience, or you shadowing, that you kind of know what the healthcare environment's like, and how, you know, that your skills would maybe fit into that in the future. So yeah, and then obviously you can explain when you saw this and what you learned from it, and basically go on and continue from that example. So it's all about really linking it in together and linking it with medicine, like no matter what example it is.
Was sport something that you used in your personal statement?
It was a little bit. So it was something at the start that I thought was really important to talk about, because it's one of my strengths, is you know, my extracurriculars. But I think a lot of the universities, especially people like Cambridge, they're not that bothered about, you know, your extracurriculars. They just want to see how that can link into medicine. So use it as an example, but show them what you've learned and reflect on it and what skills have you developed from it. It's not just saying, oh, I did this, I played for, Manchester City youth team. Like, what did you get from that? Like, did you develop some communication skills? Did you mentor anyone? So it's about using that and to show, yeah, you're a good student. Commitment as well. So I think a lot of medical schools are aware that maybe it's easier for some people to get work experience than others, and that they just want to see that you've committed to being in a caring role for a significant amount of time. So this first one spent a day shadowing a palliative care consultant. That's great and obviously so useful. But the thing is as well, they want to see that, you've not just thought about this and like, oh, might try and do it. So this one spent 2 years volunteering in a hospice. Like, you've really put the time in there. And again, you could use an example of empathy again there. You saw how important these things were to patients, and that you interacted with these patients and learned about them. And again, like, you develop these different skills from all that as well. So making sure that you can demonstrate that, you've really thought about, because medicine's a tough subject to study and it's also a really tough job in the future. They want to know that, you've really considered the pros and the cons, and you've experienced it as well, and really know what you're getting yourself into, really.
Yeah, just on that kind of commitment side of things, obviously, we completely appreciate that it's very difficult for people to find the same kind of work experience that they might have found pre-COVID. So one of the things we did during the middle of summers, we did a webinar just around finding work experience during lockdown. So especially those students that are applying or next year, and they'll be looking for work experience. What I'll do, I'll put a link to that webinar in the chat, so they can find that YouTube video. So I guess the guys who are applying this October, they probably would have already got the work experience, but the ones that are applying next year will face work experience challenges with COVID.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'll just put a link in the chat for.
And there's stuff you can do with COVID as well, like even working at like a support line for elderly, vulnerable people, or working in a charity shop. It's all a very caring experience, so definitely give that a shot if you've got the chance.
Yeah, definitely.
So communication as well, obviously so important. You're going to be chatting with colleagues, patients. So here I've got an example of what not to do. So I was elected student president. I was able to develop my communication skills. Obviously, it's a great example of, a really good role to have and to demonstrate, but you're just not getting it across in the right way there. But here, this example that is probably a much better one, you're again linking it into medicine, being able to explain information to patients and listen to them, and you've really studied and understood what the role of a doctor is, and you are aware of, what their interactions with patients are like, and like how, and then you can go on and say how you can demonstrate this. Maybe that's a way to link back to maybe like an extracurricular and say, I have shown these skills in other points. And resilience as well. Now, as I said, medicine's a really hard subject and they don't want you to drop out because you're stressed. They want you to go on and qualify as a doctor and be able to continue on working in the NHS for years to come. So they want to know that you're able to cope with the workload and that you're able to basically de-stress at the end of the day, and you've got outlets to basically keep a good work-life balance. So outside of school, I enjoy going to the gym. They'll appreciate that, but I explain why that's important, and why that you need to be keeping well in yourself. So this one, I understand that medicine is not only physically taxing but mentally. Like, you've shown really good awareness there that It's not the most glamorous thing in the world, but you're committed to it, and despite that, you know, you still want to do it, and you've got outlets to cope with that as well. And so you've spoken to medical students, that's a really good initiative there that you can demonstrate, or you've spoken to doctors, because your own well-being is just as important as well, and they always tell us that, like, it's really important to look after yourself. So knowing that before you even go in, like, that's great, and you've really been proactive there. And so say, like, and then you can then go on to explain other skills that you've developed from that as well. So with the football, it helps you de-stress, yeah, definitely. And then what else have you got from that as well? Because again, you've got a limited amount of words, so it's getting everything in, linking everything in as much as possible, and showing that, you know, you've got all these skills. Because yeah, you want to demonstrate that, you want to show in that really tiny amount of space that you are, you know, the best candidate possible. So motivation, this is a really hard one. I think this is the hardest bit of the personal statement that I found, in saying, like, why do you want to do it? Because it's such a cliche, like, I've always wanted to do it, and, you know, I mean, I'll say I've wanted to do it since a young age, but I think, you know, it's really hard to not be, you know, the same as everyone else. Like, no one's really wanted to be a surgeon, not from the day they were born, you know. Everyone's had different experiences. Maybe, you know, you got treated as a patient once and you're like, oh, like, that's a job I want to do. That's a really unique experience. Like, write about that. They don't want to see the same opening sentence over and over again. And just make it really personal to you. And they'd rather see something that's truthful and honest than someone that's, you know, going to exaggerate that, you know, they've always wanted to do it, and it was a job that was meant for them. Because, you know, some people decide in, you know, year 11 and year 12 that this is something that I want to do. And if you say honestly, and you can still provide the evidence that you're committed, then, you know, that's great. So yeah, just be honest with them, and, you know, be unique, and yeah. So I thought I'd give some top tips here. So draft, and draft again, and that is exactly what I did, and it's awful because it takes you so long, but it's so important because there's always tweaking and tightening that you can do. There's always bits that you can cut out that aren't necessary, bits that you need to chuck in because maybe, you know, you haven't shown that, you know, you're resilient and you have a good work-life balance. Maybe you have to put that in there. So don't be afraid to just keep rewriting it, because, I mean, it's going to be awful. The first draft you write is always really bad. So, you know, keep doing it, keep working at it, and, you know, in a few weeks' time, you'll be like, oh my God, it's a completely different piece of work, but it came from somewhere, and you got somewhere in the end. So a tip as well I give is start off with bullet points. Like, what do you want to get across? What skills have you got to offer? And what experiences you had that you want to bring to the table. So say you've, you know, volunteered in a hospital, that's great, bullet point. And then what can I show from that? What have I learned from that? So did you learn communication skills? Did you learn empathy? And what situations can you demonstrate that with? Like, did you have a chat with a patient that really sort of hit you emotionally? And then maybe then link that into some reading. Say, oh, I spoke to this patient and it really affected me. And then I went and read this book, and this is what I learned from that book. So it's all about weaving it in together and making it sort of one cohesive piece. But then at the start, just make sure that you've got everything in you need, and then the writing will just come eventually. Have people read it. I had anyone and everyone that would read it, because they'll always see stuff that you miss. When you have a piece of work that you read yourself over and over and over again, like, you're going to miss things. There's going to be big mistakes that you just glaze over because, you know, you've written it's your piece of work and you've seen it so many times. It's like a maths problem where you just can't spot the mistake. You know the answer's not right, but you just don't know quite where you've done it. So having other people read it, they'll spot it, they'll highlight it, and they'll give you good feedback as well. Like, if there's something that they really like, or, you know, really resonates with them, then great. You know that, you know, keep that bit in, and then don't be afraid to get rid of stuff. And yeah, don't be scared to cut big chunks out, because that's certainly what I did. I had a whole paragraph just thrown away and, you know, put in the bin, and big red crosses, and like, that's fine, and it's okay to just start again. I think sometimes when you do a piece of work or an essay, you're scared to change it, you're scared to you know, go at it in a fresh outlook. Like, don't be afraid to do that with a personal statement, because, you know, it might just click in the end, and you're like, okay, wow, it just might flow much better, you know, if you just moved some things around. So yeah, don't be scared to do massive edits. Be different as well. So everyone always uses the same sort of cliches at the start. I've always wanted to do it, but I mean, yeah, as I said before, we've all got unique reasons for wanting to do medicine and different experiences, and they want to hear that. And you know, how you reflect on that. And you know, they read thousands of, you know, applications within, you know, a few weeks. They're bored out of their mind. They want to see something really cool and different. So don't be afraid. As long as you can link it to medicine, I think that's what's the most important point is. You can literally write about, you know, any of your achievements or anything you've seen or learned, as long as you can link that back to how does that relate to medicine, and why would that make you a good candidate, and then why would it make you a good doctor at the end of it. So I thought it would be quite good to maybe have a look at which universities sort of prioritise the personal statement and which ones maybe don't look at it as much. So there's a few that don't look at it at all: Brighton, Sussex, Plymouth, St George's, Sunderland. So if you feel that maybe that's your weakest area, I'd probably, you know, say go and apply to these places, like, especially if you've got maybe a strong UCAT or, you know, A levels or GCSEs, then that might be a good one for you guys. Screened but not scored. So basically that means that they read them, check that, you know, you're applying to some other subject, or you're committed to medicine and you've demonstrated at least a few of those skills. But basically it's not scored, so it's not gonna boost your chances of getting an interview if it's really good, as opposed to just average. But you still obviously want to be able to demonstrate all those skills, just so they're not going to go, oh no, they don't want to do it. Bye. Used in selection for interview, so Barts, Buckingham, Cardiff, Imperial, King's, Oxford and UCLan. So basically I think these are the big ones that if you've got a good personal statement, then definitely have a look at these guys, because you know, if it's good, that's going to boost your chances, and you want to get all the interviews that you can get, really. And then these guys use it to differentiate between basically candidates that scored similarly. So say someone's got the same GCSEs, same UCAT score, only then will they actually look at the personal statement. So in the end, that's quite a big thing, especially if you kind of score around the middle in all of those. Then it's really good to have a good personal statement there, so that you're not losing out to someone that, you know, is otherwise the exact same as you, because it's kind of a bit of you know, kicking the teeth there. And then use an interview. So this is when it's important to really know your personal statement, and, you know, being able to reflect on and highlight those really important bits that show, you know, why you'd be a good student. Maybe have a paragraph that you really want them to look at and go over, that you can talk about for 10 minutes or however long the station is. Yeah. So any questions? I hope the sound was okay.
Yeah, I think the sound was fine for me. I didn't see any more
Okay.
kind of comments for the students.
Good.
So if it breaks up again, I'll let you know. Yeah, that's really good. I like the way you've kind of just taken, you know, actual examples and kind of shown what kind of an average sentence is, and then what a good sentence is. Because sometimes it's really, if you read things, kind of blogs and articles and things online, sometimes it's like they just give you general advice and you tell you how to apply that. but some of the points that you've put in there, you can actually see how you've taken that same piece of, content and then enhanced it, and you can actually see the difference between the two, and then how it's linked back to that specific skill, which is really good. For me, that would be a lot easier to understand when I can compare the two versions of the same thing. So that's really cool. So just having a quick look through the questions, I think at this point as well, I'll ask April. So anybody that's been on the webinars before will probably know and have seen April. She's one of the doctors that works with us. Hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I've tried to filter out, because I know we're using the upvote system, so I've tried to answer some of the questions that are a little bit further down that probably won't be answered because we've only got limited amounts of time. So I've tried.
So hopefully we've got like the dream team of we've got a medical student and a doctor for answering questions. So hopefully we'll get through quite a few. I can see there's the first question there already has had like 117 votes.
Oh wow!
So let's kind of have a look at that one to start with. So if you're in year 12 and you are waiting for work experience but don't know if you're going to get any with kind of COVID situation, how can you still write in your personal statement? Who wants to go with that one?
I think universities are definitely aware of how difficult it's going to be to get work experience at the moment. I think it's always good to do, like, see if you can get some volunteering, as I said, like working, maybe on a helpline or something. You could even be dropping off shopping to an elderly neighbour or anything like that. Anything that demonstrates you're a caring person who, wants to deal with people and just kind. But I think it's not going to be a massive disadvantage if you're waiting. And then I think you can always say about your plans as well. I know if people are taking a gap year, they can mention what they're planning on doing in their gap year, and what skills they're hoping to get from that. So that's always an option as well, just saying what you're planning on doing.
Yeah, I think just kind of like looking at the question, I think quite a few of you, and it seemed that most people were in the year 12 bracket and were applying for like the next year, wasn't it? So at the end of the day, you don't need to be writing your personal statement now. That's okay. You can leave it, and this is one thing you can leave. So yes, work on the work experience bit, but you don't actually need to write the personal statement now. So, if you are kind of trying to have a little bit of a timeline in your head, early doors, maybe think about next August, because you need to have everything. And like Minnie was saying earlier, like that bullet point kind of skill, that's a really good tip. So you can't bullet point everything you want to put in if you still have like 9 months worth of potential experience, we'll say, because I think, like I said, we're not going to get through traditional work experience as much as you would 2 years ago. But like Minnie said, again, universities know that everyone is kind of in the same boat. So, you do have some time, but do think outside the box.
Yeah, definitely. So the ones that are applying next year, definitely start a diary. That's something we've spoken about in previous webinars as well. If you're year 12, crack on with a diary, because that's going to be the most important thing for your personal statement next year. If you are obviously submitting it in a couple of weeks' time, you're not going to have much time for work experience now. So a lot of it will be looking at what you've already done and then trying to pull those skills out and linking that back to medicine in some way, because you're not going to have much time to get work experience in the next couple of weeks, really. Cool. Right. Okay. So we'll try and keep the pace going with questions. So the next question is, once you've written your first draft, how can you work on it to improve it? What questions can you ask yourself to make it better? You kind of touched on this a little bit before, didn't you, Minnie? Yeah,
I think it's just saying, have a look at the sentence by itself and say, what can they learn about me from that sentence? Like, what information have I given them about myself, and how have I made myself look like a good candidate from that? And if it's just that I'm the captain of the football team, then maybe think, maybe I should change that and say I'm the captain of the football team and I've got these skills because of that, or I've demonstrated this because of that. Like, I think you always want to be showing that, you have these qualities that make up a good medical student, and that's what it's all about. And they want to learn about you as a person. They don't want to know just what have you done, like they want to know you. So and then just have other people look at it as well, of course, and because they'll say, I've not got anything from that sentence maybe, and so just what have you got from that sentence, and what do I want them to know about me from that sentence, and what should I add in from that?
Cool, nice. Next question down is, what is a non-cliche but still interesting way to start? This is a tough one, isn't it?
That's a really hard question. I think you just got to be yourself for that starting question. I think it's got to sum you up as a person. Maybe not that deep, but I think that's a challenging bit about applying, is that introduction and that conclusion, because you've really got to sell yourself in those two sentences. But I think just being truthful, as long as you don't exaggerate and be like, I want to do medicine since I was born, and I have a dream of being a world famous neurosurgeon. I think just being realistic, and I just think it's got to be really personal to you. So I think it's quite a hard question to answer.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I always kind of recommend is leave that first sentence till the very last. Because if you're trying to write your personal statement, you're stuck on that first line, it can be so demotivating trying to come up with this perfect line at the very start of this process, of the start of that writing process. Just leave it. Just come back to that as the very last thing. Get everything else like absolutely perfect, and then go back and write that those first few lines. Because once you've put your experience in there and your reasons why, and you've explained things really well, it'll make that first sentence a lot easier. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Right, okay, cool. How can you show the person reading your personal statement that you're passionate about medicine?
I just think it's all the things that you've experienced and done, towards the application. Like, if you've, volunteered, if you've had loads of work experience, I mean, that already shows that you're really keen. Wider reading as well is always good to get in there. I mean, don't overdo it with the wider reading, because it's only a little bit, but I think it just shows a real keen interest outside of just, I want to do medicine. Like, you're actually wanting to learn about it, and, getting stuck in as well. I think doing things like the EPQ as well are really good. Writing essays about medicine. I just think just everything you've done, like, just plop that in there, but obviously make sure that you demonstrate how that makes you a good candidate as well. But I just think it's all those examples there.
Is there anything you think you'd add to that, April?
I think it's similar, and it's just extended on to what Minnie's saying, really, because it is putting kind of what you've experienced, not necessarily work experience, but your life experience so far. Because I know a little bit further down, like a lot of people worry about putting personal things, and if you've had a family experience and things like that. But if that's the reason why you want to study medicine, like, you need to put that in, because that's your personal reasons. It's called a personal statement. So if you have reasons that you want to put in there, then that's what sets you apart from everyone else. So if you've done an EPQ, or if you've done a particular type of experience, or if you've done a particular thing in school or outside school and volunteering, you need to make sure that the stuff that you've learned about and that sets you apart, and what is going to potentially make you a better doctor, and all those buzzwords and things, you need to make sure that you're including those.
Okay, cool. Right, we're going to try and fly through a few questions. We did this last webinar. We tried to get through as many questions as we could, just because I'm conscious of the time, and we don't want to take up too much of anybody's evening. So we'll try. So the next question is, what books do you recommend to read? So, Minnie, give me one book that you recommend.
To 'Twas the Night Shift Before Christmas by Adam
yes.
Kay. That was a classic.
And his first book is amazing as well.
Oh, I've not had a chance to read the first one yet, but it's like
amazing. It's
laugh out
hilarious.
loud. I was laughing on the tram. Like, it's really good.
Yeah, totally
Chocolate.
recommend too.
Yeah.
Okay. April, have you got another one?
No, Adam McKay's first book. Oh, there's another one called Being Mortal. That's the one I'd
Oh,
recommend.
Atul Gawande?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, question done. Next one. What kind of things should you say in your concluding paragraph? What are they looking for? In a super succinct way.
I think that's the paragraph to sell yourself. Like, that's your big summary. That's your big final hurrah. Like, this is why I will be a good medical student. This is what I have to offer. Boom. Like, yeah. It's just sell yourself completely with that paragraph.
April?
Yeah, no, agree.
Okay, fine. Should I include personal information such as my background?
Yes, if you feel that that's what makes you a better potential medical student or doctor. What have you learned from your background? What have you learned from your personal life and things like that that actually makes you a better person and a better potential doctor?
Yeah, as long as you can link it back and it's a positive thing for you being a medical student or a doctor, great.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next one, due to COVID, many people will be doing the same online work experiences. How can I make mine stand out? Good question.
I think it's just how we talk about it. Yeah, like,
yeah, go for it, Minnie.
Just like, as long as you can really reflect on it and what have you learned from it, then that's great. I think that's all they want to see. Like, tick, you've got the experience, but then also tick, you know, what have you got from it? What have you gained from it? But again, show why it makes you better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on.
I was just going to say, Minnie's used the keyword when reviewing personal statements and stuff. People really underestimate the use of the word reflection. And if you don't know what reflection is, you know, we've done a whole webinar on it before. Please use reflection in your personal statement. It is super key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll try and find the reflection webinar for everybody. And I'll post it in the comments. How can you work on cutting your personal statement down apart from rephrasing and getting rid of extra words?
I think maybe like just doing it blind. I think maybe take the ideas from what you have on the personal statement you've written and then basically maybe try and start fresh. Say, I want to get this across, like I've got this experience, and then just maybe try and rewrite it and then compare the two, which one's better, or could I mash the two together? Maybe try that.
I just hand it to my dad and he's like, no, that's rubbish, take it out.
I think, have people read it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to post that how to reflect webinar. I'm going to put that in the comments as well. It's on YouTube, so it's the link to our YouTube thing, but everybody needs to watch that. It's so important. Okay, cool. Another quick one. How do you balance personality with academics?
That's tough.
50-50?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends where you're applying as well. Like, if you're going for somewhere like Cambridge, they want to see that academic side. They want to see your interest in science and things like that. But a lot of other places, they'll want to see just commitment, that resilience and stuff. What do you do outside of medicine? Are you a well-rounded person? So yeah, I say it's a tough one. I think it's just your strengths as well.
It's the strengths and the skills and the reflection and you've got to think that these kind of admissions people are reading personal statements over and over and over. So if yours sounds like everyone else's, at least try and make it sound a little bit personal. And you know, if you do have something that you want to get across, try and get it across in some way, because then at least they'll be like, ooh, okay, this one's a bit interesting.
Super quick one. When should you start writing your personal statement?
I started mine in September, before applying in October. And I think, like, just wait until you've got everything there. You've finished like all your work experience and done your shadowing, and And you've got your UCAT score as well, so you know you're actually going to apply. Because I think that's a really tough thing for me. I was like, oh, what if I absolutely, bomb my UCAT? So I think wait, and then it's fresh as well in your mind for when you get interviewed as well.
Cool. Another quick one. What should I avoid writing in my personal statements? What do you think, April?
Lies.
Yeah.
Any plagiarism, any lies, any fibbing, anything that you're not kind of, if you're expanding the truth, they will get you. Yeah, and good grammar and spelling, because some universities mark you on that.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if they bring it up in an interview and you say you've read a book and they ask you about that book. Yeah, exactly. That happened to you, April. So don't do that. Or just read the book if you're going to put that in there.
Yeah.
Jokes are risky as well. Like, only put a joke in if you know it's actually gonna work.
Think.
Don't want them eye rolling at your personal statement.
Cool. We'll try and get like a couple more questions in. I'll scroll further down just to try and get some of the questions that have come in slightly later on as well. Will doing virtual work experience be the same?
I think so. I think obviously with the situation at the moment, like, you're being keen, you're being proactive, you're going up your way to find something while all this is going on, then that's amazing. And then, as we said, as long as you can reflect on it and link that to medicine, then I think then that's great. Like, you've shown that you're really keen there. So
yeah, at the end of the day, kind of, even like, I don't know about you, Minnie, but I've had a lot of my teaching switch to, so even when you're a doctor, you get teaching and things like that. It's part of, you still need to be taught a specialist subject to be a consultant. So, you still are learning. And even my learning earlier this afternoon, we had 6 people that were allowed to be on the face-to-face lecture, but then the rest were at home and having it like via Microsoft Teams lecture. So actually you're still getting like teaching and things online. So you can reflect to that's actually a way that people are learning. It's a way that, learning is shifting. There's my dog coming in the corner, sorry.
Oh, yes.
I've ignored him long enough, apparently.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just on the work experience front, obviously we do kind of work experience things, and normally all of our courses would have been in person, but we've had to switch them all to being virtual. And we have like the GP Live, where we have the GP kind of studio in the film set, and that's all live streams, so students can kind of see that on that course. And we've got like the full virtual week now as well. And so I think universities will understand the fact that, you're still finding work experience, you're still finding opportunities. And like you said, as long as you can reflect on it, which is something that we teach in the actual kind of courses as well, that's the most important thing, is that reflection bit. And then that can be used in your personal statement and in interviews and everything. Cool, right, I'm going to find 2 more questions. Try and find 2 good ones.
Just to clarify, someone's asked about EPQ as well as extended project qualification. So it's like an essay that's equivalent to an AS, just to quickly like clear that up. I think a couple of people asked.
And do you think that's beneficial? That's a question we get quite a lot. Should I do an EPQ?
So. I think if the opportunity's there, I know not everyone has the opportunity to do it, but I mean, if it comes up, then I think I definitely benefited from it, learning how to write essays and reference and stuff, having only done really science subjects for A-level. Yeah, it's a good experience, and I wrote about it because I was really interested in medical ethics. I did my EPQ in medical ethics, and then I could link it to books I'd read about ethics and how it's important in medicine. So yeah, it's a good thing you can link in with your personal statement.
I'll make this the last question, just because I'm really conscious of time. Will involving personal obstacles in life contribute to a personal statement?
I think for sure. Like, I think obstacles are something that you learn a lot from. I think that it's, you know, if it's something that's really personal to you, I think they'll really appreciate that. And again, if you can, you know, link it with why you want to do medicine or why you'd be good at it, I think then that would be really great. I think it's a really like honest way of, you know, getting that in the personal statement.
Yeah, anything for that, April?
No, it's very similar. I think honestly you're going to get bored of us by the end of it. If you can reflect about it.
Oh god.
Put what you've learned, put what makes you a better doctor, honestly.
Yeah.
It's so important, and you will get bored. And I know we sound like we're repeating ourselves, but it's something that when I didn't put it in my personal statement, and I read my own now and it's awful. I don't know how I got in. So like the ones that we read that have reflection in it just look amazing, and it just looks that they really want to study medicine. They know why they want to study medicine, and they know the like realistic side of medicine. So, you know, that's why reflection's so important.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really, really good point to end on. I've put the YouTube link in the chat for everybody to find that how to reflect. So if anybody's kind of thinking, oh, is my personal statement good enough? Have a look at reflection, because that is what's going to make your personal statement amazing. So yeah, that's a really good point to end on. I'll leave that kind of open in the chat for a little bit so everybody can find that once we've kind of finished this. Everybody needs to go and watch that. It's really, really important.
You will reflect for the rest of your life if you
Yes,
get
you will. You will. That's really important actually to say, is
so
that
much.
you reflect. You have portfolios when you're a doctor. Yeah, reflection's so important.
Yeah.
So get
Cool.
good.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for kind of for tuning in. We haven't got through all the questions, but we, you know, there's literally thousands of questions on there. Hopefully, we've answered some of the main questions. Hopefully, we've given you some, you know, really good resources to go away and kind of help if you're just finishing it off, or if you're starting it for next year. Hopefully, that'll give you a bit of guidance where to go as well. Yeah, we've got some more webinars coming up in a couple of weeks. So feel free to check the webinars page, and hopefully, you know, we'll see you on another webinar. But thanks for tuning in, and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.